Eli5 If the rich are buying up investment properties in cities like London and then not living in them or renting them out, how do they expect to make money? They will be left trying to sell them to slightly wealthier people than themselves as investment properties. How is this not a Ponzi? There is also protection in collectively buying up large amounts of real estate if you can hold it. New home buyers have trouble finding homes because private equity gobbled up a large part of the inventory. As long as they do not dump the inventory, the decreased supply available drives up prices. So collectively investors buy up large amounts and only divest in very small amounts what they don't rent profitably. In cities, it's a real problem. In the outlying areas, you can build new subdivisions, but within a city, you can't create more land. If you're rich enough to be able to afford to buy one of these, you're rich enough to not want randoms traipsing in and out of your home. In addition, if you buy a place for $10 mil and it goes up in value 10, you've just made $1 mil $20,000 per week, a number that would far exceed any rent you could gather but with none of the hassle. Thirdly, if you buy the place with cash, it doesn't really actually cost too much rates, insurance power. It's only really your perception of the opportunity cost of that money that's an issue. Average price of homes in London now beyond the affordability of the top 10 of earners in the country. Why has this not collapsed yet? To address this smaller part, because not everyone is paying the current market price for their residence. If someone bought their townhouse outright for £100,000 in 1970, it doesn't affect them whatsoever if it's valued at £3 million today. Similar case if someone holds a long-term loan, they are paying on the price when the loan was originated, not paying its current price. My city has banned Airbnb in single-family homes and residential zones. There are 3 on my street. Prior to being Airbnb, they sold last for $250,000–300,000 US. In at least one case, because they can no longer get a permit, the house 2 down from me is now for sale for $625,000 US. Absolutely crazy. Families could have lived there. Now the investment folks have basically ensured these places will never be affordable again. This is actually happening in China, sort of. People invest in an unfurnished building in hopes of will increase in price, nobody lives in them and they look abandoned. But London is one of the main cities of the world, any city with a stock market in it, it's a safe bet. But it's not a Ponzi scheme when there's an actual product. That's just called an investment. They don't always pay off, but wealthy people can afford the risk. I think this is a good argument in favor of a vacancy tax. Don't forbid people from investing in real estate, but make it unprofitable to not rent it out. It should kick in after 3 months of vacancy and slowly get larger with each month, until it rises to twice the level of market rent for the area. The fine for occupancy fraud, for example, having someone pretend to live there, would be 10x the market rent for a year. It is not a Ponzi because an actual tangible desirable asset is changing hands when sold. Lots of rich people in autocratic countries want to buy, recently wealthy individuals from business want to buy, or even other speculators what the people buying and sitting are doing. But it is speculative because one day the demand may collapse and they are left with a home they do not live in that is now suddenly not desirable. They are using it as a store of value, similar to buying gold. Many of the people who purchase homes and neither live in them nor rent them out are from countries with unstable financial systems. This could be somewhere like Russia, China, or Venezuela. They are trying to get their money out of those countries and into a safe place. They value safety of the investment significantly more than a high investment return. Buying something and hoping to sell it for more at a later date isn't a Ponzi, it is how every investment in the world works. How would you classify buying a share of some company's stock? Or a bar of gold? A Ponzi scheme is a very specific type of fraud where existing investors in a fund are paid returns for money coming in from new investors. What you have described is not related to it in any way. It's not a Ponzi scheme because they actually do own the properties. A Ponzi scheme would be if they expected to own the properties but actually didn't. It is a bubble, and bubbles take a long time to collapse. As long as there is more investment money pouring in, and there is insufficient construction to satisfy both the investors and the residents, then prices will keep going up. Let's say you have 1 million. You get a loan from a bank of another million with 1 interest while you invest your million at 5 interest. You rent the house you bought to more or less pay the mortgage and you wait 15 or 20 years. The house will be yours without even spending a cent. And you will have make 4 interest on your invested million. To make it simple, here in Vancouver, Canada, there's wealth coming from countries where the governments can seize the money, so the wealthy buy properties to at least keep a portion of their wealth sheltered from their home countries. This is getting more expensive as there is an empty home tax that is 8 of the value of the properties as well as standard property tax of 2. A few things are happening. Wealthy are buying them to use occasionally, along with the houses they own in other locations. Wealthy from Russia, China, other countries etc. may be using real estate in stable locations as a means of holding wealth that cannot be taken by their government, isn't going to suffer currency fluctuations, etc. If you buy something when the price is low and hold on to it until the price is high, that's not a clearly made and actually profit in the end. What's more, you wrote off the losses the entire time you held that unproductive property. That's better than letting that same money sit in bank accounts or stocks. It's not a Ponzi scheme because the need for housing is always there. They can rent it out at any time, they just don't. The demand is there. Also, in order for the price to collapse, those people would need to have to sell those properties. They're too rich and don't have to sell, and they will be paying property taxes on the property for good measure. But the other investment opportunities open to them are even worse, so they'll take it. Only thing that might adjust their behavior would be a steep price correction. It's not a Ponzi scheme, there's intrinsic value to owning a house outside of just selling it and getting out of the business. It can generate revenue and is a store of value, plus something you can actually reside in. It's a way for all of the world's criminals and tax cheats to park their assets. It's not about turning a profit, it's about evading accountability for the sordid ways in which they got that money in the first place. Your government cannot afford to have the prices of houses stop going up. All those older folk who own houses would vote them out if that happened. So house prices must go up, it is a political necessity. Property is almost always a good investment. There's only so many properties in central London and demand is inevitably going to keep increasing. Not necessarily from UK residents, but internationally. Rich people from corrupt countries are laundering their corruption money. And to keep it safe from being seized by the corrupt government they live with, it's an investment. Housing prices go up over time for a variety of reasons. You buy now, sell later. Why would it collapse? Imagine being the bin man for a high-end street that has no residents because they are all in Russia, China, Qatar.